Just to briefly introduce, currently he is a co-founder and CEO of Cryptoworks Corporate, a Silicon Valley headquartered startup for enterprise data integrity solutions based on proprietary blockchain technologies. He's an active angel investor and is on the board of many technology companies. He was also the co-founder and CEO of the German Accelerator Program. This is a German government-sponsored accelerator which supports German startups to enter the US market. He's received his diploma in engineering in electrical engineering from Dortmund, Germany, and has an MBA from Ann Arbor University of Michigan. He served in the German Air Force headquarters. He holds a commercial pilot license too. So fairly varied background and rich background. So over to you, Dirk, now for an exciting session.
Yeah, Anand, thank you very much indeed. And dear Thai members in India and around the world, I truly appreciate to have the opportunity to present Cryptoworks to you. I'm delighted that COVID has many bad things, but one of the good things is that in many aspects, it also moves the world closer together. I haven't been back in Bangalore since quite a while, but I'm truly appreciative what I have learned and have seen many great companies in Bangalore and in other Indian cities. So it's my interest to present Cryptoworks to you, to the Indian developer community, and to see whether there are potential use cases which can be applied to that market. As Anand said, I will actually go with you through a presentation, and you can interrupt me at any time, please. And I like to leave enough time also for some questions. And of course, please reach out to me. I am at this moment in time calling actually from my old alma mater, the Technical University of Dortmund, in the Ruhr Valley area, the old coal and steel mining area where I was born and raised. As Anand said, I have early moved to Silicon Valley, not to leave my home country, but for the same reasons why so many great fellow Indians also moved there, because it is a wonderful opportunity to bring new technologies into the market via Silicon Valley. But many applications are regional in regional markets. So I'm delighted to present that to you. Let me share my screen, and I do that now. Hold on. I hope, well, I don't see, do you?
Yes.
One second, I go for the full slideshow view here. So you see my first slide, it's called Digital Data Proofs as a Service.
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So that already tells you what I'm trying to present you today. Digital data proofs as a service. That's actually a big statement. And let me explain to you on a little bit of an American kind of style way what the ultimate bigger problem is. As you might have heard, a few years ago in Florida, there was an accident of a Tesla driver running under a truck, and there was a lot of bad press for Tesla at that time. It ultimately had been solved out of court because, and in the press, it actually was noted that the autopilot was malfunctioning. As a matter of fact, it wasn't. But Tesla had no proof that the autopilot actually was off. It had internal records and files that the autopilot was off, but to present it in the court, of course, there was no evidence that this sensor data was actually being presentable in a way that it had not been potentially manipulated. As a consequence, Tesla had to settle outside court. And that tells you a little bit what the problem in the future might lie. How can reasonable sensor data be actually proven? Not only can they be trusted, how can truths be created for such kind of sensor data? So what Cryptoworks then is a startup founded in Silicon Valley from two Germans, actually, and Anand mentioned it already. One is a good friend of mine who is associate professor for blockchain technology at UC Berkeley, a cryptographer and mathematician. And he actually came up with a concept of accelerating blockchains by and large. I like to leave that statement for you engineers on a very high level, and I will explain to you what that actually really means. But it ultimately, from an application perspective, provides digital data proofs or the ability to notarize all relevant data with a simple blockchain API. I use the term notarization because the term notarization refers around the world as a term where truth is created among something, being it a document, being it a file. You go to a notary, you receive a stamp. What if you could do the same thing with a very large amount of data that you can get a notary stamp on such kind of data? And it can be, of course, for events, log files, data versions, data model versions, software versions, etc. Oh, I'm sorry, but this is now my thing jumped. 1 second. So in our product, in a nutshell, we provide a simple REST API to our customers where application developers can create proof of data existence by anchoring data hashes into public blockchains or any kind of blockchain or any kind of decentralized ledger. It generates cryptographic proofs for each of these data hashes, which can be shared with everyone. You, the applicant or the ultimate customer, has the ability to notarize thereby all relevant data with a simple API at a very high scale. As a matter of fact, our server matches usually every kind of data application speed. At Visa in Foster City, we run about 600,000 transactions per second. Right, so which we are then anchoring in public blockchains. Our solution is, which is important for end customers, for instance, for a CFO in a corporation, we are PwC certified as being equivalent to a digital signature. We are integrated on SAP, and we have 9 independent patents in a patent family which we are constantly expanding. What we do is basically this API connects various kind of source systems, document management systems, being it data analytical tools, or transaction systems, payment systems, or any other kind. It takes hashes we receive, and we anchor these hashes in any secure vault or any blockchain. Our standard product is entering it into a public blockchain like Ethereum and Bitcoin, and we do that in parallel. So you might ask, well, what is actually new? And most of you have heard about blockchain. What is new about this here is that usually blockchains have compromises. They are either slow, however, have multiple independent nodes like Bitcoin or Ethereum, well known for cryptocurrency transactions, or they're a bit faster, like private blockchains, IBM Hyperledger installations, however, where you have not many independent nodes. Basically, you have somebody who could influence this blockchain. We solved the problem by having very low cost, very high speeds, and any blockchain the customer requires. You can also change the blockchains, the underlying blockchains later, or add another blockchain if a new blockchain development comes along, or a customer or your jurisdiction or a legal institution requires a specific blockchain. So why should you care? We always say we like to move from trust to truth. Trust as a philosophical term, you trust a specific outcome. You need to trust an institution, you need to trust business partners. We actually would like to enable that there is truth being created. In other words, there is whatever you anchor cannot be modified later by anyone. And that, of course, is something what the public blockchain especially provide. Manually verifying data as an alternative, if you need to verify data, is usually something what the insurance industry does, still in many instances. That's a costly endeavor. You make your data, if you are in the business of selling data or providing data, you make them more valuable if you can prove that the data are not modified. Let me give a quick example here. For instance, if it comes to life science research data, trial data, these kind of trial data could be made immutable. It could be made that they are, yet you have proof that they have not been manipulated. You can master increased regulatory and compliance requirements. You can eliminate disputes with customers or vendors through this. And of course, in the environmental social governance aspect, you can verify whatever kind of social sustainability achievements you have generated. Why is this problem a difficult problem so far to solve? And I would call it the blockchain engineering problem. How to utilize public blockchains, especially for application development with easy implementation, high speed and scale, and at very low cost. How to establish verifiable evidence for data of any kind. How to prove to customers, courts or regulators that data have not been modified or tampered with. That usually is done, and therefore you see many applications in. Now the recording has stopped. I continue. Anand, if I don't hear anyway, otherwise. Oh, now it continued. Okay. So you will see a lot of blockchain solutions around the world, which have not utilized public blockchains for the simple reason that they are too slow, too cumbersome, too difficult to implement, and especially at these times, one single transaction on Bitcoin or Ethereum pretty often costs you $50, which is completely prohibitive, therefore, to use public blockchains for large-scale transactions at these times. A slide for you, for most of the engineers, this is an obvious one. Why blockchains over traditional solutions? I mean, traditional solutions are admin controlled, data can be modified, few dependent copies, it's not hacking resistance, and high hardware and data management cost, whereas a well-made blockchain solution provides maximum trust, even truth, with many independent nodes, immutable deletion proof storage, exact copy on every independent node. It's virtually unhackable and low hardware and potential for automation. A quick positioning that you can, for those techies among yourselves, position Cryptoworks solution. Here on the x-axis, I've described the level of security from centralized trust to any source of truth of the choice of the customer, meaning including multiple public and a combination of private blockchains. That's what Cryptoworks can offer at very, very high speeds. Let me now start to give you a couple of use cases we have encountered in industry. One is, of course, as we are talking with IoT data, what about IoT data with embedded trust? So create IoT data with embedded trust to avoid future or backdated manipulation of data. Of course, we all understand that is only a segment of IoT data, like in a temperature, relevant temperature data, for instance, where you want to verify that the temperature have been stayed in a specific range, right? So we have done a number of use cases in this area where the solution was provided to product manufacturer in production-related data. They sealed the data with Cryptoworks Horizon. They stored the digital proofs for independent discovery and verification. And the benefits are trusted documentation of the IoT data and full data and event auditability. To summarize again what our offering in that kind of solution is, we had here a system integrator which used our API where we only receive hashes. We never receive original data. And we then anchor the hashes in the public blockchain. So in this specific way, the use case of IoT data was that we had here IoT devices, right? We received the hashes directly from the sensor level. Usually we receive SHA-256 hashes, so standard kind of hash algorithms. And what we do is then anchor the hashes in the blockchain. I will send the presentation later so you can go through all these use cases in more detail. But one interesting aspect is also verified supply chains, right? Where actually you want, this is in this specific case, an automotive tier 1 supplier. The objective was to create a platform which serves as a verification and trust center to prove the production of products and their characteristics during production and for later inquiries and audits. What we provided is a central computing platform acting as a trust center, anchor and verify the integrity of supply chain data in blockchains using the Cryptoworks product, which we call Horizon, with storage, the storage of the data seals of every production step, which can be accessed through the platform for verification. The benefits were detection of data tampering, increased confidence and trust by consumers in product and provider, and assurance that supply chain tracking is fed with untampered data. I go quickly through it. This is how it has been implemented, or in a diagram. So every participant in the supply chain sends hashes the data it's received and sends them to a trust center. Another problem example is create reproducibility of analytical results. I don't go deeper into it, but you can easily imagine that if you want to have analytical results and want to share them, that you can see many applications in that area as well. Another solution example is an audit data management platform. You all have heard about the big instance here in Germany with Wirecard and the fraud. While a Cryptoworks solution would not have hindered that the fraud is happening, Ernst & Young actually would be delighted if in court they could prove which data they have seen at what time. Currently, they don't have really any proof to show with evidence what data they have seen at what time. So to sum it up, for our offer to especially Indian developers is that Cryptoworks offers to selected Indian developers a free access to our REST API for test application integration and ability to scale public blockchains using the Ethereum test chain environment. That is something where we have a good API description also available, which is self-explanatory. So thank you. And let me, for the engineers, summarize again what Cryptoworks is actually really doing. For any kind of data events, we receive hashes. We take these hashes and store them in public blockchains. We create a link, an unbreakable link in public blockchains. We return to the customer for each hash an encrypted seal, what we call a seal, which evidence is created that the hash is actually linked in the public blockchain. What has happened here is you will ask yourself, well, where's the magic and where's the IP? I can say so much. Basically, it's a bundling technology. We receive 1 million, let's say, for example, 1 million data hashes from you. Each of them have 32 bytes size, which is SHA is 256, 32 bytes. 1 million times 32 bytes is 1 megabyte in this example. We take a hash of the hashes, thereby reducing the 32 megabyte information again to one single hash, and only store that single hash in the underlying blockchains. By this kind of compression, you will you're significantly you make only one transaction for the underlying blockchain, which reduces significantly the cost per hash transaction, and you arbitrarily increase the speed. This is clever, but the IP actually lies that for each of the hashes, you, the developer or the end customer, receives this seal, which it can, together with the original data, can recreate the root hash in the blockchain. I leave it at that. I'm more than happy if there are technical questions about that to have a separate session about it, but I hope that gave you a little bit of an insight where the IP lies, where the magic lies, and it also explains why the world has not used so far public blockchains for creating evidence, because they are slow, because they are very expensive, because they are very difficult to implement. And with Cryptoworks solution, there is a clever solution provided which solves that engineering problem. Thank you all.
We have some questions from a few of them. So I would request Ramakrishna, if you can ask your questions.
Yeah, so my first question is, do you support hashing and signatures for video streams? And
video,
yes, yeah.
For video, yes, we are completely independent what the source of the data actually is. If it is video, it requires let me call it a standard, what you want to actually verify, the video file in itself, in its totality, or what you could do, and we're working with some Hollywood institutions exactly on that problem. How do you actually be able to verify clips of the video? For instance, if you take every 60 frames per second, you could actually seal every frame if you desire to do so. So the answer is yes.
Well, there are two parts to this question, right? So the first part is just treating the video stream as a file and then creating a signature for it. Second thing is supporting different resolutions for the same video, and that should produce the same signature. I'm not sure whether you're supporting that. Second question is, you have live stream videos. Let us say I'm having a farmland. So I have a live stream coming from there, and I want to ensure that the live stream is actually authentic. It is coming from my farmland. So does this fit into your solution space?
Okay, yeah, it's a very good question. Let me answer it in the way we support every application where the speed of data hashes received is below the 100,000 per second. So that usually means, I mean, if you think about video streams, of course, that's much higher than every video stream. So yes, we do support this. It depends really on the application side, what you as the application developer provide the end customer solution, what you really require. We can verify the whole video clip in its totality, or we can verify segments of it if you choose to hash these clips. So for instance, you could decide with an algorithm to actually every second you hash the video clip and send us the hashes that would make the video clip verifiable. So your second part of your question, and that is the question a little bit of how real time actually our solution is. Well, one of the disadvantages of blockchains in general is that by definition, they are not real time, right? Ethereum anchors every about 14 seconds in theory, and Bitcoin in about every 10 minutes. When you have private blockchains installations, the world looks a little bit different. It depends really on the installation and what kind of private blockchain you use. If you would like, here is a bit more complicated answer. If you want to create evidence in court, usually it takes longer than 14 seconds or 10 minutes. So the real-time aspect is not there. However, if you want to have an interims proof, you get from us almost instantly what we call a retrieval ID, means once we have received a data hash from you, we return a retrieval ID, right? Which is basically enabling you to retrieve that we have received the data hash and it will be later on anchored. That means you would have in the interim time to trust us, to trust the underlying blockchain, Ethereum or Bitcoin, that 14 seconds or 10 minutes later, actually the verification process with the public blockchain is then completed. But that's the delay which is engineered by the underlying blockchain. If you trust Cryptoworks in the interim time, we give you back a retrieval ID with which you could have an immediate real-time comparison and thereby verification.
So we'll move on to the next question. We have SC. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. Hi, Dirk. I think it's a very interesting concept where you're kind of providing notarization as a service. You yourself mentioned the limitations of public blockchain, let's say 30 transactions per second, and like you said, blocks every few minutes. The question I had was, you have decided that the optimization would be possible by making a hash of the hashes. So you're getting hashes from IoT devices, and that hashes, again, you're hashing. Now, as hashing, we all know, is a one-way function. My point is that you can probably validate that one data hash is there and not being tampered with, say, with a Merkle tree concept or whatever, is the blockchain validation concept. But when you're trying to, let's say, validate whether one data hash was there, like suppose you have 5 cars, you have Tesla and Mercedes and BMW, etc., etc.
Yeah.
You're getting the sensor data, which is coming in simultaneously. And you're saving it as a block once every 10 minutes. And you have this hash of hash. How do you prove for the Tesla case that that hash actually existed, except saying that the tampering was not done?
Well, this is exactly where I thank you for this question. We might want to have a separate session on exactly that topic, because I am not so sure how much I can tell without my CTO being present. But you referred also to a Merkle tree. What we provide back and where our IP lies, that for each independent of the bundling. So I gave the example of 1 million IoT data from a Tesla sensor. reduced to one single hash, we return to you independent 1 million seals with which you can prove each seal is associated with each hash. It's call it a Merkle tree going in and a Merkle tree upside down going out again. That's it's a very simple explanation, but you might actually understand where this is all thing going. But as a consequence, you have a mathematical proof. This is not something where it's great software. With the seal you have for each hash, each seal, you create a mathematical proof. It sounds too good to be true, but that's where our IP lies, where our patents lie, that we can create a mathematical proof for each of the independent hashes.
Great. We have Uday, who has his question next.
Hey, thanks. Dirk, thanks for your time and explaining us how this works. Now, I just want to understand how would you differentiate this product from IOTA, the DAG-based IOTA, which has been the ecosystem for almost 5-6 years, right? So
excellent question. We are using IOTA as an underlying independent blockchain, but not every service wants to use IOTA because IOTA is a proprietary technology in itself, right? Where at least some people have some concerns that IOTA could be potentially manipulated. But that's beyond the point. We don't actually go there. We like and love IOTA. It's one of the underlying, let's call it blockchains we use, if the customer requires. If, however, there are other customers who do not believe in IOTA, they rather believe in a public blockchain or a specific private blockchain installation, we simply offer the customer IOTA, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperledger in this. Yeah. So you have with Cryptoworks the choice of adding multiple solutions underlying and are not bound to only IOTA. But IOTA is indeed a great solution.
Folks, if you have any more questions, feel free to raise your hand.
Dirk, Anand here. While we are waiting for further questions, I think you may want to just, you did mention it during your presentation, but you may want to mention that really the go-to-market in terms of what Cryptoworks has to offer is one, you have a digital seals as a service. But second is you also have the APIs available for the developer community or for any other product as an embedded product and can be made available. So can you elaborate on that to folks? If I understood you correctly. Hello. Just hang on.
Anand, the line right now has been pretty weak.
He has some issues with his connection.
He's got an issue. So just I request patience. Folks, have a bit of patience till joins us again.
I am sorry, I was thrown out. I'm back, Anand. The line got bad. I only heard the first part of your question, which was related to Cryptoworks Offering. Is that correct?
Yes, I said the offerings that you have available for the marketplace and for developers. So you may want to stress that.
Yes, thank you. So Cryptoworks, for the good and the bad, does not offer an end solution to specific verticals, right? We have done so initially as a company to provide end-to-end applications, but have decided that Cryptoworks offers an API to its customers, which are predominantly developers and system integrators. This API is then used, and the customers can use this SDI API to specify what kind of underlying blockchains or sources of truth they want to have. We just heard from me the public blockchains or hyperledgers or IOTA. There are a number of others which we support. I think in total we support about 25 different underlying blockchains, which can be all then served through this simple API. So nobody then needs to engineer a connector to these various public blockchains, nor does the customer or the API user need to handle the transactions to make payments to the public blockchains. This is all done through Cryptoworks. What our business model is that we getting paid by the number of transactions which we receive, or in other words, the number of hashes we receive. And to give you an idea, in the non-IoT sector, it's usually, and it goes down by volume, it starts about 0.05 cent per transactions. But for large-scale IoT applications, we have a completely different pricing structure. When the volume is very high, it's 1/1000th of this, right? As you can imagine, if you have 1 million transactions per second, we have to price it accordingly. For developers, we offer that they can test our API and simply integrate it into applications for free. And we would like to receive, if some of you might be interested to play around with it, via a simple email applications and a short description of what you want to use it for, then we give you an API key which enables you to play around with it and to see how easily it can be integrated and how it is performant.
We have 2 more questions from Nagendra and Ramakrishna.
Sir, I want to understand, so now if we want to adopt this in supply chain, where, we have a proof that, whatever, vendors are supplying across the chain. So there is also a shared data which has to be visible to all of them. And I assume that, your service is not for that. Because the distributed ledger part, you will not take care. But if somebody wants to use some database, and then you want to have a notarization of whatever is the event which is coming in, and that's where this notarization alone will help. Is that my understanding right?
Your understanding is absolute correct, and let me understand why we made this strategic decision. Because we understood that many customers would like to have different solutions for actually storing the original data. Point 1. Point 2, we actually make a fame for ourselves that we never see original data. We only receive data hashes. We don't even know what we get, whether it's nuclear launch codes or a marriage certificate. We don't know, right? This makes Cryptoworks very hacker resistant, even if we are hacked, right? What people would see on our servers, we run on an AWS in various jurisdictions in the world. What they see on AWS is only hashes of the data. They don't know and we don't know what the original data is. We have done a few exceptions in our go-to-market, but these are a very few exceptions, and I do not like them.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Dirk, There is a question which came up, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes ago, but I think I don't want to ignore that. I was looking through the chat box. There's a question from one of the audience. How does data hashes map into blocks for public blockchain? I don't know whether the question is complete, but that's what it says.
All of us, simply speaking, all of us could actually generate a data hash. And all of us could, through open source software, you make this hash and make a transaction on Bitcoin, for instance, and create a link in a block of the Bitcoin blockchain. We would have to pay currently $50 for it, which, for instance, in real estate applications where the contract value, if you want to do a verification of a contract, which is very expensive contract, right? You want to anchor that, you could do that yourself as a service provider. You could do that. There are two reasons why you could do it. As I said, you would just have to pay the $50 about. And second, it's one or two or whatever, not many hashes you would actually store, very few of them. So for that kind of application, you would simply do this. That means I answered this question indirectly. It's nothing new when we can all, as of today, do this with open source software already. Simply store a hash in the Bitcoin or any kind of other blockchain. The problem, however, lies is if you have 1 million hashes, you do not want to pay 1 million times $50. And you do not want to wait until it takes to store all this. So it's basically prohibitive. And this is this was the reason, and it came up in another question, why other technologies, proprietary technologies like IOTA, have been developed to actually overcome the problem. But they are proprietary, right? And we do open the use of public blockchains for verifying data hashes by doing the same thing. Like in my example, we only store one hash in the blockchain, in the block of the blockchain, but behind that one hash, in my example, are 1 million hashes, which we compress together to one hash only.
Great. We have one more question from Ramakrishna.
Do you support time expiry for hashes?
Say this again. Time
expiry. Basically, I generate my hash and I would like to set a timeline for expiry of that hash. And after that timeline, I do not wish to retrieve anything from your system for that hash.
That is a question I cannot answer. I note it. If you send me an email, I'm more than happy to answer it. I do not know the answer to this.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So folks in the chat box, and Dirk has given in the last slide, Kevin McDonald's email ID. So Dirk, I posted kevin.mcdonald@cryptowork.com as the email ID.
Yes, but also you can just simply use mine,
Yes.
as I have spoken, because as I heard some of your names, I'm more than happy. And Kevin is in the California time zone. I am in Germany right now, which is only 4.5 hours apart. So you can also use dirk.kengieser@cryptowork.com very much as well. I'm more than happy to answer also questions directly.
Sure. So that has been posted on the chat box by Vinay. So folks, do send that out. And if anybody has interest to contact Dirk, please do so.
Well, thank you very much, Anand, and thank you very much all for your very interesting questions. And as I said, if some of you have interest to make use of the API, then we have the API in a way that you can use the test versions of the various blockchains, so there are no cost occurred for you or no cost occurred for us to make use of this API. So we have indeed a test API, which I'm more than happy to provide you if you send me an email and with a short description of the application.
Sure. Vinay, looks like there are no more questions. So should we? I think should we conclude now?
Yes, please.
Yeah, we can do that. And thank you all participants. I think you had a lot of good questions, which kind of covered not only what was presented, but the adjacent areas are also around the product API. And also, if you have any more questions, as Dirk said, which is CTO, and you want to do deep dive into the technology stuff, please do so. Feel free to write at this point of time. We at the IoT Forum will keep bringing in insightful sessions like these, which will help to really get to unique solutions. So please use these monthly sessions in order to both get clarity on cutting edge new technologies, as well as the application possibilities for your own startups and your own development of a product or a service. So with that, once again, thank you, Dirk, for joining us from Germany. Over to you, Vijeta, our Executive Director of TiE Bank.
Thank you so much, TRA and Dirk. Thank you so much for taking so much of time. Must say that a very beautifully crafted and designed presentation. We have been getting a lot of very, very good feedback, and we'll make sure, TRA, that we'll spread the word out. We'll let our community know. And to the people who are here, please join the IoT Forum, join a Telegram group, because getting subject matter experts like Dirk is something that we want to do more. And Dirk, we just hope that you are connected with us, you stay in touch with us. There are so much other activities that we are having that we want you to be with us. And also with all your fundraising, your growth, customer onboarding, you're an entrepreneur, you're a startup as well. So all the best with that. Thank you so much for everything that you're doing for us. All the very best.
Thank you so much indeed. And best greetings to Bangalore, a city I really love a lot. And stay all safe in this current last phase, hopefully, of the pandemic. And I wish you all the very best.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
And Dirk, just to let you know, right, the TRA, we did last month, we had our get together of the IoT Forum, and we had it at one of the finest breweries in Bangalore. So please make it to Bangalore. It's a great place. Lots of fun, lots of bonding, lots of networking. Okay. And lots of customers too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, very best. Thank you.